Storytelling and narrative play a fundamental role in shaping our culture, education, business, families, and our personal lives. I quote Maya Angelou. There was a young boy who lived with his family in an old country home which had an outhouse for the family facility. The boy hated that outhouse. It was burning hot in the summer, flies buzzing around, it stank all the time. And in the winter, it was so frigid cold, his little butt nearly froze to the seat. His dad replied, "Yes, son, but George Washington's father was not in that cherry tree." You are beautiful as you are. You all are, because I said so. There was once a crow who said, "I do not like my feathers. Oh, how I wish I could be a peacock." "You are beautiful as you are," the other crows insisted. "Oh, please, you are so plain and dull to me." Yeah, he'd insult them. Then he'd fly to admire peacocks. The peacocks strutted about in their colorful tail feathers outstretched. To the delight of the crow, some of the peacock feathers lay on the ground when they left. Oh, the crow flew down and stuck the feathers in his wings and in his tail. He attached a few on his head. "Now I'm as beautiful as a peacock. Ooh la la." But it is foolish to try to be what you're not. Learn to love the feathers you've got. And for all of us non-birds here this evening, learn to love the skin you're wearing. There was once a contest among 4 sisters to judge who was the prettiest among them. Now, they were all exceptionally beautiful, but they were all different in nature. Winter, the eldest, was cold and harsh, and everyone was afraid of her. Spring was the friendliest and the most popular among the 4. Summer was warm, but had a mercurial temper, as we all very well know. The 4th sister was Autumn. She was very shy and generally kept to herself. Autumn received the golden crown, and if you happen to catch her at sunset, you can see her wearing it with pride. And there's a moral to this fable. The shy and silent often are full of surprises. And that's the end of the tale.
I spend a good deal of time hiking the trails up in these hills here. And it's fun to be here and share a story with you tonight. Before there was anything, before the great flood had covered the earth and receded, before the animals walked the earth, or the trees covered the land, or the birds flew in between the trees, even before the fish and whales and seals swam in the sea, an old man lived. There's always an old man in the story, isn't there? But this old man lived in a house on the bank of a river with his only child, a daughter. They lived together there in complete and utter darkness, because at that time the whole world was dark, inky, pitchy, all-consuming dark, blacker than 1,000 stormy winter midnights, blacker than anything anywhere has been since. And the reason for all this blackness has to do with the old man in the house by the river, who had a box, which contained a box, which contained a box, which contained an infinite number of boxes, each one nestled inside a box just slightly larger than itself, until finally there was a box so small that all it could contain was all the light in the universe. Now the raven, who of course existed at that time because the raven had always existed and always would, was somewhat less than satisfied with this state of affairs, since it led to an awful lot of blundering around and bumping into things. And it slowed him down a good deal in his pursuit of food, other fleshly pleasures, and in his constant efforts to interfere and change things. Now the eagle continued to pursue the raven out beyond the rim of the world, where the raven at last, exhausted by the long chase, let go of his last piece of light. And so there it hovered on the clouds until it began to climb up over the mountains lying to the east. Its first rays caught the smoke hole of the house by the river, where the old man wept bitterly over the loss of his precious life and the treachery of his grandson. But as the light entered into the house, the old man looked up and for the first time saw his daughter, who had been sitting quietly through all of this, completely overwhelmed with the chain of events. And so the old man and his daughter beheld at last the beauty of the world ablaze with light, and they were happy. That's the raven steals the light. Thank you. That's an old Haida tale. It's a tribe of natives from the Pacific Northwest.
But this is a tale from West Africa, and it's a tale about Anansi the spider. Now, like most tricksters, Anansi was very lazy, and if he could get out of doing work, he would. If he could trick someone into giving him something, rather than having to work for it or pay for it, he would do that. Now, oddly enough, Anansi had this reputation for being an excellent farmer. But the reason for this was because Anansi had a great many children to do the work for him. And Anansi himself would simply go out and find a place where they'd already worked on the farm and weave himself a hammock to lie in and supervise. And that's how he got his great reputation. Well, one season, the rainfall was a lot lighter than usual. And ordinarily, this wouldn't cause many problems. But because of all of Anansi's many hammocks all over his farm, the hammocks caught a lot of the rainfall. And then as soon as the sun would come out, that blazing sun would dry up those raindrops, and hardly any of the rain actually fell on the crops. And they suffered for it. Anansi's farm looked awful. Whereas his neighbor, Chameleon, his farm, which he had tended very carefully and consistently, looked wonderful. He had giant yams and tall golden corn and delicious sugary plantains. Well, of course, Anansi, as soon as he saw the condition of his crops, tried to make a partnership with Chameleon. Well, the strange thing was that after all that time, all those vines had started rotting away and falling apart. And any of the flies that were still alive had flown away. So that in truth, all that Anansi had on his shoulders was a bunch of shredded, rotted vines. And everybody was laughing and pointing. Anansi could not take it. He scrambled up the first tree he could find and wove a web to hide behind, and he did not come down for 3 days. Well, Chameleon, was laughing the hardest of all. But he knew how cunning and how sneaky Anansi is. And to this day, he's constantly changing his color so he can hide from Anansi and his revenge. So anyway, it's called The Flock of Birds. Deep in the forest, there was a large flock of quail. And they had a very pleasant existence there, for food was plentiful and predators were scarce, and it was very pleasant. But one day, a very skilled hunter arrived in the forest. A hunter very skilled at imitating the quail's song. And as they squabbled and squawked, postured and fought, the hunter arrived, and the birds were caught. He scooped up that net and proclaimed, "I'm the winner. Together, they're mighty. But divided, they're dinner." The story. Well, now we're going to have our intermission.